What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Wet Boots Podcast. My name is Leo. This is a show where I talk to people who are or have been in the military and I get a chance to hear their story. My guest today is a very special guest because he is my first Navy veteran. He is a person who knows how to plan for the future, unlike most of us that spend our paychecks on overpriced trucks and terrible tattoos. He is a Navy veteran. He's a financial planner and author. Please welcome my guest today, Gregory Stevenson, everybody.
Awesome. Hey, man, thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
Hey, man, thanks for coming on, dude. This is wild because I've never had a Navy veteran on. Just give me a little background. Just tell us the background story. Where are you from, and how did you get into the Navy? Like, what drew you to the Navy out of all the branches?
Yeah, great question. So I was born and raised in Miami, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really get along with school. I was that C student. I always skipped school and got out early, and so I didn't really conform well. And so I grew up in Miami, and then I went to college right out of high school, and I went for nursing. And my father always told me, hey, you're either going to go to school or you're going to go to the military. And at first I was scared of the military. I was definitely worried about what that would look like. And so then I tried the college. I tried nursing. One semester went by. I did okay. Second semester, completely flunked it. I mean, I was just like, that was not my thing. I was there for the wrong reasons. I was not focused. So I left the nursing career. I left the college. And I ended up getting a job at a restaurant, and I started doing bar backing. I started doing all these like jobs. I was doing electrical, I was doing plumbing, I was doing bar backing, and I had a girlfriend at the time, and I knew I wanted to do more. I knew I wanted to do better for myself. And, growing in Miami, it's not the kind of city that you want to stay there long term. You kind of want to just move on.
Yeah.
And so then I decided to move on. I decided I was going to go down. I tried the Marines actually first.
How did that go?
And yeah. And so I was getting ready to gear up to go with them.
Uh-huh.
And then I had to show them my tattoos. I had some tattoos that were just too big. So they ended up saying, hey, we can't take you.
Really?
And I was like, dang, like I just worked with you guys for a whole year. Like I worked out. I was, top of the running circle, and I worked out great. And then right there at the end, they're like, hey, we can't take you. It's like,
wow.
All right. So they said, hey, we won't hurt your application. What we'll do is we'll just, go down to the Navy and see what they say.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then that's when what drew you to what about the Navy was like, besides them being able to take you, what was it that you were like, all right, this is what I wanted to do. Like, this is the branch that I wanted to.
Well, I scored pretty high on the ASVAB with the Marines. I scored pretty high there. And so I knew I wanted to get into something that was intelligent, or, just something that required a little bit of brain.
Yeah.
And with the Marine Corps, there's no guarantee. Doesn't matter what your ASVAB is. They can pull you as an infantry. It doesn't matter. Yeah. And so in the Navy, when you get your ASVAB and then you sit down with the detailer and you lock in your contract, you get that job. Whether that's, AO, AT, AE, whatever that looks like. If you lock in aviation, you get aviation. So that was the second thing that drew me towards it. I always knew I wanted to, do, something bigger. So I figured, when I went down to the MEPS, I told them originally I wanted to be a Navy diver.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, because I saw my dad be an electrician, I saw him be a business owner, I saw him make a lot of money there. And then my stepdad, he was a welder and a plumber. So I said, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to do something that pays me big. So I did a bunch of research. And I saw the Navy has a diving program, and you could be an underwater welder. So I actually originally applied to do that, and they were okay with it, but there was like 2 years of prep, and there was all this stuff. Yeah. So they said, hey, in the beginning, we'll just give you aviation. And so I like that they locked me in with the aviation, and then they sent me off to boot camp.
So what was your job? What was your job going to be at this point?
In the military, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my job, so they said aviation.
Uh-huh.
And so the way the Navy works is you have to, once you get in and you get that contract for aviation, for example, you're going to have to get that requirement at that enlisted level. So, for example, I had to get my CDI at E4 once I was at my first command. Okay. Once I had that and I was considered a good eval, then I can go apply for these extracurricular activities. But the military wasn't about to just kind of give me that contract up front. They wanted the obligation to be met. Then as I progressed, I could have went from there.
Okay. So what was your day to day in the Navy?
Yeah. So I went into Great Lakes and, went to boot camp in Great Lakes. I don't know if you knew that or not, but the
No.
Navy's, yeah, it's Great Lakes, Illinois.
How so okay, okay. So I have no idea anything about the Navy. What is Navy boot camp like? Like are people yelling at you like in the army
Oh,
or
dude,
are they just like get ready to be on a boat for like 6 months at a time?
I messed up, man. I messed up. Let me tell you.
Why'd
So
you mess up?
they give you, they give you that book, right? That book the second you get there to boot camp. I don't know if they did that for you guys, but so you have your book, and then they were like, hey, you got to remember the page. You got to remember the page number. You can't put any, things in your book to remember the page. But I didn't listen. So I took a napkin and I put it in my book because I wanted to bookmark my book.
Uh-huh.
And so I was walking out of chow, and the chief calls me to the side, and he's like, do you have an issue following orders? I was like, no, what are you talking about? And so he grabs my book and he opens it up. He thought I was getting a letter from another girl.
Oh,
They see that all the time with the new guys.
yeah.
I was like, I was just bookmarking my thing. And so they were like, all right, get back in line. So I got back in line. We lined up. We were marching to our barracks. And, it's just the silliest thing. But I ended up spitting. I was in March and I spit on the ground because it was just a bad habit from Miami. I just spit.
Yeah.
And the same guy that called me out in line there caught me doing that. And he's like, you got an issue, Stevenson? Like, you got a problem? Do we got to send you back? I was like, man, I'm just trying to get by over here, man. What's going on? So that was Navy boot camp. It was great. I went during the time that you had no Thanksgiving, no Christmas, and no New Year's Eve. So basically got snowed in, didn't get those 3 holidays. We got a pizza party for it. 2 months ended. I got out, and then they allowed me to choose where I wanted to go. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Let me back up. We went to Pensacola because that's where aviation school is. So we went to Pensacola, and that was called your A school.
Okay.
A school, right? So then that's where you got ATI, ATO. That's where you got your AE, AO. That was aviation technician or aviation.
That's like AIT for us. That's like the school where you're going to learn your job.
Exactly. That's
Okay.
your first layer of education. So
Okay.
Pensacola, got there April 16th. I got shipped out to San Diego.
Okay.
So that's where I landed in San Diego in 2017, April 16th. Got stationed here, been here ever since. I'm still here today.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
And so let me ask you, when you are in the Navy, right, what does your PT look like? Like, because for us, it's either a run or we go for a ruck.
Yeah.
Right. And do you know what going on a ruck is?
Yeah, I know what a ruck is, but I
don't want to insult your intelligence, but I don't know if the Navy has those because I don't see why you would.
I'll be honest with you. Every time I tried to be the motivator, every time I tried to lead the group, every time I tried to do that, a few people started to fall behind, and it actually made me look bad. Right? Because I wanted to speed up. I wanted to get people moving. I wanted to do things faster.
Yeah.
And not everybody's equipped for that. That's not really, I would imagine the Marines are more, Army and Marines are more focused on that. But yeah, the Navy's PT is very light, man. Going into the military from where I was coming in, it was night and day.
You guys actually do PT. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I know the Air Force doesn't do PT. They just wake up and they're like, oh, I got to go to work at 11. They're fine. So with field exercises, how do you prepare or what do you even do? Because at least from the Army side, you go to the field, we go to the fucking field and we hate our lives for a little bit. We shit in a hole, piss and shit in a hole, and then we do our actual jobs there. Like I used to be mechanic, used to do mechanic shit out there. But how do you prepare for being on a boat?
Yeah. So in boot camp, they have something called, God, I can't even remember the name, but you basically, battle stations. That's what it's called.
Okay.
Yeah. So battle stations, they basically put you through these exercises that is a 48-hour no sleep event where you're exercising in a sinking ship scenario.
Oh,
yeah.
What the fuck?
So they're basically putting you through 10 exercises over a 48-hour no sleep event with red light, and you fall asleep, you basically die, or any of the events, you basically die. And if you fail a certain amount of events, they just ASMO you back. and then you go to another division and try again.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty sick. But, we got through it. There was a few times that my knees buckled and I hit my head against the bulkhead and,
Yeah.
woke myself up a little bit more. But it's good memories, man. There's all that shared PTSD. And then there's also, there's a few events in boot camp, but it's all ship related for sure. Yeah.
So so you go to San Diego, you pass your schools, and how do your, I guess, exercises or deployments look like after this?
Yeah, so I actually lucked out. I got shore duty first. So I don't know if the Army has
I
this
don't even know
rotation.
what that is.
Yeah, so in the Navy, we have a sea rotation and a shore duty rotation. So you go 3-4, 3-4. That's how you do your years. So you
Okay.
either do 3 years shore or 4 years sea. And so if you go to a shore duty first thing, it's a 3-year contract. But then if you go to sea duty, it's a 4-year contract. And then from there, you re-up, right? So for me, I lucked out, and they sent me to a training command, which is shore duty, meaning I don't get deployed for 3 years.
Okay.
So I was able to work with HSM 41. I was with the training command for helicopters. So officers, once they got from Pensacola to their platform, they would come into our command and they would be able to do their training evolutions on the helicopters we maintained.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes a little bit more sense.
So
So
they
you
would
were
do flight operations. They would be able to take off deck, touch the boat, come back, and we would maintain those helicopters.
so does being on shore duty mean that you're not on a boat?
Yeah, no boat. I never
'Cause-
touched a boat in my whole career.
Being in the Navy, really?
I did 5 years, never touched the boat.
What the
I know, right?
That's
I
wild.
fully expected the boat. I fully expected it. And
That's
no
wild.
boat.
That is
I lucked
insane,
out.
man.
Doubt.
Um, so looking back at your Navy career, were you ever at some point besides what we're going to talk about later, were you ever at some point like, I can't believe this is fucking happening around me or to me?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there was some highs and there were some lows with that exact moment. I mean, you got to remember, man, I grew up in Miami where $1,000 a month was a good paycheck. And now
Mhm.
all of a sudden I'm getting paid $5,000 a month. And I was living in the barracks,
Mhm.
right? Because in the Navy, you can get married and still live in the barracks. And so they give you BAH and your paycheck in the barracks.
Oh,
Yeah. So I was able to save up $20,000 in a 4-month span.
Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it was really good. I was very, going from one meal a day, getting by, working crazy hours to the Navy, feeding you 3 square meals, getting you paid and, just kind of building you up the right way, giving you a sense of pride.
Yeah.
That was good. It was really good. I definitely thank God for those moments of making me a better man.
Mhm.
But there was definitely some oh shit moments, that's for sure. There's definitely helicopters that break in front of you, and then there's, I don't want to go in depth, but there's scenarios where people are suicidal on a flight line, and they jump into a helicopter. That's a
Jeez.
thing. That's a thing. So, we got to be mentally prepared for stuff like that, and we
Mhm.
also got to be equipped to, have our brother and our sisters back. So there's definitely oh shit moments both ways.
Yeah, so let's circle back to that one because you said there was a couple highs and like there's a few highs and lows with those moments. Just give us a couple of those highs and then a couple of those lows.
Yeah. Well, a couple of the highs I would say was, when I was E4 CDI signed off, I got to work with my shop. I got to, execute on $60 million worth of aircraft on a daily basis. We're having, 7 aircrafts live on the flight deck, and we're running between all these different aircraft. And I mean, just imagine, you got a 23-year-old kid with millions of dollars of equipment running up and down the flight line with 7 spinning helicopters, and you're going in one, out the other, in one, out the other, back and forth. And it's exciting, man. I just think of it now, like that was a sense of pride to be able to do that stuff. And that was great. Being able to accomplish the mission, even though it was a training mission, I took definitely a lot of sense of pride with that. So
Yeah.
that was definitely some highs. Some lows, I mean, my next command when I was at HSC 23, we had a helicopter go down here in San Diego. And obviously, I don't want to go into crazy details, but, most of them didn't make out of that. There was one survivor,
Oh shit.
and being part of that command at that time, is a low moment. The Baham Rashard was caught on fire during my service. So knowing
Jesus.
people that I went to boot camp with were on that boat. So those were just some real moments that, definitely some, oh, shoot moments.
Yeah.
And then there's the occasional, getting chewed out for doing the wrong maintenance. But for the most part, there was a sense of pride, man. I appreciate my service a lot.
Yeah, yeah, we all do. Like, I mean, I equate it to kind of like the good old days, right? At first, we kind of
Yeah.
just hate it. There's stuff about it that we're just like, you know what, this sucks. Working long hours, doing whatever it is, especially as a maintainer, because getting your hands greasy, all nasty, and then you're eating a sandwich with dirty hands because you still got services to do, and it's it's disgusting, but it's what you got to do. And then you go home smelling of like wheel bearing grease and fuel, and you got all types of fluids on you, and you're
Oh
just like,
yeah.
God, yeah, I'm done with this. But
Yeah.
it's those things that will just kind of stick with us because we're really I mean, most people are really proud of their service. Most people look back on their time fondly, but at the same time, when we're in it, we just don't see it that we just don't think that we're gonna miss it, and when we
Yeah.
really and we for the most part do. um did you guys ever did you guys ever have, like, during your trainings or something like that, one of the best meals that at least the Army can provide, which is the MRE?
Did I ever have an MRE? I never had one.
Really? Oh
Yeah,
man, you're
never.
missing out. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
You're not missing
Send me some,
out.
man. Send me some. I'll do a live demo.
Oh man, I'll send you some. They're disgusting. Fuck, I hate MRE. I
Well,
hated
for
MRE.
us, I mean, back then we would just, I mean, your mind's going to get blown here, but we'd show up in the Navy, because aviation's different than real Navy.
Okay, and
These are
in what
two different
sense?
navies, way more relaxed. I mean,
Okay,
we show up for an 8-hour shift, really,
yeah.
in the aviation world. And then the first thing that we're, deciding on is where we're going to get food for dinner. Where are we going to, so we
Okay.
assign one person to go get food for everybody. And then we come back and then we did the aviation for the day. We did the workload, but we never had, I mean, I probably had a couple 14-hour days in my 5 years, but these were mostly 8-hour days.
Well, yeah, because you were in trade, what we call trade doc, right?
Yeah.
Like in a
Yeah.
training unit. Okay.
Right. Yep. Exactly. So, we'd show up at 6, we'd be done by 4.
Man, what I wouldn't give to have been in that,
Yeah. Sometimes we're getting out by 2 and we can beat the traffic.
dude. Now you're just making me think I should have gone to
I'm
the
rubbing it
Navy.
in. Yeah, I know. I'm rubbing it in.
You really are, man. During your time, during your time in the Navy, the private news network goes so fast. Rumors spread so fast.
Mm.
During your time, what's the wildest rumor you heard from someone that actually turned out to be true?
That's a good question. What turned out to be true?
Or give us a couple of them. Give us a couple of rumors that there was no basis on.
Well, I'll give you one that would kind of stood with me, kind of, because you get the whole don't get married in the military right before deployment kind of
Yeah.
thing. So this one guy I was working with, he told me a story of a guy who was, in love with his wife. They just got married, ended up paying for, a very expensive surgery for plastic surgery for her body,
Mhm.
getting the, chest upgrade or, butt upgrade, whatever. And so then he goes on an 11th month deployment and she ends up cheating on him and divorcing him. And then, but here's the kicker, all of that surgery he put on credit. So he was still paying it through the divorce. Yeah, that's so bad. That's so
Oh,
bad. But like, you're not even halfway through the payments and she's already left, done. And in
God.
California, a divorce is 6 months minimum.
Yeah, you have to wait 6 months
You have to
in
wait
order
six.
to. Yeah. Oh man, you
So
have to be separated for 6 months. I thought it was a year before.
maybe it was, but yeah, that's California now is 6 months, and so yeah, that was a pretty horrendous story there for sure.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, that guy's gonna think twice before he gets married again. 'Cause
Yeah,
what the fuck?
probably still paying the debt off today. Yeah, I
Jeez.
don't
Yeah,
know.
because those things are expensive, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, you're talking
Goodness,
about back then. That was, anyway.
goodness
So that's,
gracious.
you hear stories like that all the time, and in boot camp, you get all this funny stuff. You get people beating each other up, and you get all these funny little stories. And people are just weird, man. When you take one person from one part of the country and you put them around 100 people that are from all over the country, you get all these weird people, man.
You always have some fun people to be around, and it's funny, but it's also weird because I remember I probably talked about this before in one of my episodes. I remember there was a guy named, I forgot his first name, but his last name was Barrett,
Yeah.
and he would sleep with a picture of this chick, like he would take it everywhere, and we're like, you know what, that's his girlfriend. Who cares? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then once we all got our phones back at the end of basic training, we were all looking at each other and all that stuff, and we found out that this guy never really had a girlfriend. So this guy just has a picture of a random chick. He probably knows this lady, but he's just like, I'm gonna go back to you, and I'm gonna love her so much. And I'm
Yeah.
like, cool, because there's like a couple days between getting your flights and to
Yeah.
your next duty station and all that good stuff. And we found out this guy did not have a girlfriend or was married, and we're like, what the fuck is this, dude?
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
do you have a
Weird. Yeah.
random
It's kind of
picture of a
weird.
chick? He's like, I'm gonna go back to her. Oh man, there was another guy that we had. His name was we called him Akon because he was from Africa. He had some sort of Akon in his name, and that dude was very quiet, and he was very stoic, very serious all the time,
Yeah.
and he never really talked much. We always tried to get him to curse because he was like, "No, that is bad." I don't know why I'm doing that accent. He's like, "No, that's bad.
Yeah.
Cursing is the devil's language and shit like that," right? And so I remember one day, it was like towards the end of basic training, we're all just goofing around because that's how you are in the fucking barracks. You're just goofy. You're just trying to fight each other and shit like that. And then he's like, he's like, what is wrong with you, you piece of shit? And then we're like, whoa, he fucking cursed. He's like, fuck you, fuck you. And we're like, why are you mad at all of us, dude?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was just cursing
Hey, he was
everybody
letting
out.
it out, man. He had some pent up anger. He had
He
some
was
pent up.
cussing everybody out. He was scary though, because he had a bunch of scars all over his face, and I was like, "Dude, nobody's
Oh,
fucking
wow.
with you, man."
Yeah.
Do you remember any kind of like any colorful personalities when you went to basic
To basic.
or in your
Yeah.
unit too?
I mean, you know, I'd say my unit was more colorful for sure. There was a guy named Eldridge. This guy was next level, man. I mean, you talk about somebody that was just hating every day, somebody that was just, you're talking about the salt of the salt, from the Navy.
Yeah,
His breakfast was Red Bulls and Monsters and tobacco. I mean, you know how like the military, they let you, you could take 8 smoke breaks a day, basically get out of your whole workday just smoking cigarettes.
yeah.
That was him. I mean, you do one job, a cigarette, another job, a cigarette, another. I mean, this guy he would just smoke a pack a day, man. And he was next level. But I just wish he would swing on me. You know what I mean? Like, that was that kind of person. I wish he just put his hands on me,
Just
dude.
give me a reason.
Yeah, just give me a reason, dude. And so he was always like, I don't know how you're gonna live on the outside, man. He'd just go crazy.
Yeah,
But I just laugh at him. I'm like, dude, you're just like the smallest dude I ever met, man. And so
yeah.
anyway, I would just I'd be like, dude, try me, you little E5, try me, I was like, seriously. I mean, I wasn't putting up with any of it. But yeah, you just want to do your job. You just want to do your job and go home. And then there's people that they just want to get on your bad side because they got terrible situation, so they got to pour it onto other people.
Yeah, sometimes they just don't want to go home.
Yeah, they don't want to go home. They're happy to work 20 hours and hate their life, and it's just, well, I wasn't about that. I wasn't trying to be there. So hey, I pray for him now. I'm thankful that he pushed me, but man, in that moment, I wanted to punch him in the face.
We all have those people that
Yeah.
we just kind of they just rub us the wrong way,
Yeah.
or they do something to us that you're just like, you know what? Fuck you, man.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna fuck with
Yeah.
you. And we're like, fuck you, dude. Like,
That was at my first command. So to give you some context, like I was at a high where, I was E4, I was E4 in 3 years. I was signed off. I was fully qualified. I was looking like a really good sailor.
Mhm.
And then I re-upped in 2019. And then as I was transitioning, COVID hit. So when COVID hit, I was transitioning into my new command, and I was at this new command, unqualified E4, and then I picked up rank in front of other people that had been there longer that were qualified. So now I go to this new command, and the roles were reversed. Now I was, talked crap to. Now I was like, oh, you don't deserve this. You're a piece of. Now everything was scrutinized. I went to the side aviation. versus a shoreside aviation, and that was a completely different world.
Yeah. It was obviously, like you said, it was a completely different world. And
Yeah,
so you said you only did 5 years, right?
yeah.
5 years. You're in your new command.
Mhm.
Fucking shit sucks because you're like,
Yeah.
well, why the fuck are all these people yelling
COVID
at
hit.
me? COVID hit, and then people were upset, people were mad.
Yeah,
So you only did 5 years. What made you want to get out of the
yeah,
Navy? Because it sounded like it was going pretty good up until that second command.
yeah. So I actually, when I was, so I got, 2019, if you remember back then, I mean, nobody knew, right? So
Mhm.
I re-upped in July, the year comes around, I was going through like crazy life event. And then, so COVID hits, beginning of the new year, I was at this new command. We don't even know what's going on. Presidencies are switching, the world's transitioning, like nobody knew what was going on. So I ended up getting into my new command, and 1 year later, I went through like a crap bunch of, stuff at this new command. Hours changed, just leadership change. Everything was different. So then they started saying, hey, we're going to demand you take the COVID shot. And I was like, heck no, I'm good on that. Like I denied
Mhm.
it for like the first year. But then coming up in 2021, I started looking at other ways to start making some extra income. And I ended up starting an Airbnb business. So in about April of 2021, I went on Facebook Marketplace. Actually, I can even reverse back up. In the beginning of 2021, I went on OfferUp.
Mhm.
I found free, baby stuff. I found like free baby seats, and then I'd take the picture, I'd clean them up, and I'd go on Facebook Marketplace and I'd sell them. I
Okay.
was making $1,000 a month, nothing crazy, right? But it was a little bit of a business where I can make some money. That was small time. But then I started looking on Facebook Marketplace at rooms for rent, and I said, okay, wait a minute, this room is for rent for $800. I could put this on Airbnb and make $3,000 a month. So I went out into town and I found 6 listings. I sat down with the guy across from me. I said, hey, you want 800. I don't really like the room. It kind of stinks in there. It's not really a good fit. Why don't I give you 700 and we call it good? I got them to agree. And then I said, hey, I'm glad you agreed, but how about this? I actually give you 1,000. They were like, what? Yeah, I want to give you 1,000. What are you talking about? Well, I want to run an Airbnb out of this room, and
Mhm.
I'm willing to pay you more, and I'm willing to pay you up front. I'll take all the risk and I take all the reward, but I'm willing to pay you more than what you're asking, and I'll make sure the place stays clean. So I ended up closing 6 different listings doing that, and I started making $15,000 a month.
Oh my God. Especially in
Yeah.
San Diego too.
Yeah. So I had a couple in La Mesa, I had some in Lemon Grove, I had some in Hillcrest, and each room cost me about 1,000 a month, and then I was making about 2,500 per room per month. So it was costing me 7,000 a month. It was making me 15 grand a month. So I started doing that in April, May, June, July. I started making some serious income, and I also started some other things as well. But that was really where I started to get my income up, where I was making 20,000 with the Navy a month, and they were telling me to get vaccinated, and I wasn't for it. I was starting making some serious income.
So, oh my God. So you were doing these Airbnbs. So was that like 15 to 20 grand, um, including like that you were netting, or is that like minus the cleaning fees and all that stuff? Because I'm assuming you're not cleaning it yourself. I'm assuming you're getting somebody else to do it for
Yep.
you.
So that was the downside. It was all net. So I would gross 15. It would cost me about 7 to 8,000 to make the 15. So I
Mhm.
really only replaced my Navy income,
Okay. But at
right?
this point, you're still making more. I mean, you're not making more money than the Navy, but you're just making enough, another paycheck on top of what the Navy's
Yeah,
giving
well,
you.
it sucked because this Navy, the new command, they had me work until 5 p.m. and I had people checking in at 3. And if they left the room bad, well, I had to go call my cleaners, and it kept getting in the way, and I couldn't automate it. It was a really, really big headache.
Yeah.
So I ended up reading a couple books. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, Millionaire Next Door, Tax Free Wealth. I mean, you've heard of these books, I'm sure,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So I started reading these books, and I actually got introduced into a whole nother world of financial services. And when I ended up getting into that world, I found a coach, somebody who showed me what to do. I had somebody coach me on, how do I help clients? How do I serve people? How do I sit down with somebody? And Leo, man, I sat down my first 30 days being a licensed professional. I made $10,000 net. So I made 5,000 from the Navy. I made 5,000 net from Airbnb. My first 30 days license in financial services, I made 10,000.
Oh my God, you're still in the Navy at this point.
And I'm still in the Navy.
Oh
And
my
I'm
God.
still, so in the month of August, September, October, I made 27,000, 22,000, 25,000.
And is this including your Navy paycheck or just
It's including Navy paycheck.
okay?
That was net of
Oh,
everything.
Jesus.
Yeah. So then now the pressure is, hey, you need to get this COVID shot. And I'm like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm making more than the CO. I'm not gonna take this shot. Like, you guys can do whatever you want, but I'm not taking this shot. And so November 16th, they processed me out.
Really?
Yeah.
That is, well, I mean, that was a bad time for a lot of people because a lot of people just were refusing the shot, and the I don't want to say the Army or the Navy, but the military as a whole was like, get out then. And it was a shitty time, but you know they're bringing people back, and if they ask you, are you thinking about going back?
Yeah. Well, you know what? Depending on where I'm at, depending on, because I have a good sense of pride for serving my country. I like the idea of serving. But if I have to sacrifice my freedom to serve at this point, I probably wouldn't do it. If they said, hey, come back, be in the reserve, we'll back pay you, sure. I mean, I don't know anybody that would turn that down, but
Yeah.
we're doing pretty good now. My wife, gets to stay at home, take care of our son's going to be here any day. And so we're in a good place. So I'd love to, but I think we're in a good place business-wise.
It sounds like you're in a good, and congratulations on the baby, by the way.
Yeah, thank you, of
That
course.
sounds like it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
So besides the Airbnb and stuff like that, how did you get into that world? And
Yeah.
I'm sorry if you already explained it but you're in the Navy, you're like, I'm going to look at other things. Does anybody like mention this to you, or do you just kind of like go after it by yourself?
Well, I kind of went after it by myself because I was making, 10, 15,000 a month. And then I looked what can I invest in? I saw
Okay.
the landscape and I was like, okay, well, I know about my TSP,
Mhm.
but if I put my money in there, I got to pay taxes on it later and I got to wait till 60. And then I was looking at a Roth and I was like, I can only put 6,000 a year and I still can't touch it till I'm 60. So like, what else is there? And so I started going down that rabbit hole. And that's why I was looking at these different plans. And that's why I started reading these different books. And Tax-Free Wealth is a great book, man. I mean, they
Mhm.
talk about all these different strategies where you can put your money to work inside of a business, or you can put it inside of different programs and grow your money tax-free. And that's really what I was looking for, was just those alternative programs. I knew people were successful. I just didn't know how.
And so you sought out those people. You got engaged. You got connected with a network of people. And
Yeah.
at this point, you're kind of still in the Navy, but you're already you're already making more money than the Navy's giving you. So you're like, all right, I'm gonna get out. And so
Yeah.
you get out. How does the first I don't know 6 months to a year look like? Because now we're in 2025. That was 3 years ago, right?
Yeah. Well, I would say, yeah, 3 years and 9 months ago.
Okay. So for a lot of people, including me, the first once you get out, you don't know what to do, but you came out with a purpose. You already knew what you were going to do. You kind of knew that you were going to keep managing these Airbnbs, right?
Yeah.
But how does it go from Airbnbs to where you're at now?
Yeah. Well, you know what I would say, Leo, is I busted my ass while I was working on the side. I put my back against the wall. And so what I did was I ended up hitting my promotion to be a junior broker with the company I was working with. So literally the day I left the military was the day I hit my promotion. So just to give you kind of a little bit of hindsight on that, or perspective on that, I went up basically 2 promotions in
Okay.
a 90-day window.
Wow.
So I was able to get promoted to a really, better position. So I set myself up for success in that sense, and I had the Airbnbs. But those first 6 months, I got to tell you, man, going from a stable salary paycheck to a commission-only role, there was some stress. But here's the first thing I remember. I remember waking up 3 weeks after, and the stress in my shoulders was gone.
Really?
The stress. I don't know if you can relate to this, but every
Oh,
service
yeah.
member I know can relate to this. The stress in my shoulders was gone. I remember waking up and it was just gone, because I didn't have a man over me or a woman over me telling me what to do. I mean, I remember being in the military and we had to wear our COVID masks, and I literally was allergic to the material. And my supervisor said, I said, I can't wear this. I'm allergic to it. And she looked me dead in my eye and said, put it on. I couldn't believe it. So just from that to being like, you know what? I got all my bills paying for themselves. I got a guaranteed check through entrepreneurship. I got my back against the wall. I'm single. I can make this work.
Mm-hmm.
So there was just a different stress. There was a good stress. I had a lot of friends that were working alongside me. I had a lot of, coaches and mentors. And, my first month outside of the military, I qualified for a trip. So we went down to Mexico. I got some extra coaching there. And, some of these companies, they send you to different places. So, my first 6 months, I did great. February and November, I went out to Mexico. And not that my company's in Mexico, but the coaching was just down there, the vacation. And it's a tax write-off. And they even talk about that in the tax-free wealth. You can go on vacation and you can do business at the same time, and it's a tax write-off for your business. So I was learning about stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so those first 6 months, I actually won these shoes. I don't know if you could see these, but there's something called Top Rising Star in my company. And out of the top 100 people that came on board in those 6 months, I was number 68 or 58. I can't remember. It was years ago, but I was within the top 100 rising stars. So I actually won these shoes because of that.
Okay. Damn.
Yeah.
So you're literally making money moves, man. That's great.
Yeah. Well, I knew I loved to serve people, Leo. And I knew if I just took that work ethic and I put it somewhere that actually makes a difference, I knew I'd be successful.
Yeah. I mean, helping people is where it's at. I mean, I try to help people by get their story out there,
Yeah.
That's insane, man. So now you are in a position where you don't really miss the Navy. You don't need that paycheck and stuff like that. And I am gonna kind of not break the fourth wall here, but I am gonna ask you a quick question, because when you use words like coaches, and you didn't use the word mentor, but in my experience, because I have definitely been caught up in a pyramid scheme before, it just tells, or it just gives off the vibe of like, this is a pyramid scheme. You're under my team, and then you get 3 other people. They're yours, but they're mine. What you're doing is not MLM or anything like that, right?
No,
because you get the pitch. I'm trying to help people and stuff like that, and it brings the other people like, I've heard that pitch before from like Herbalife or Avon or something,
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I would say, when it comes to what I do is I just focus on serving people. When it comes to the coaching and, just helping people, I would say it's more of a brokerage kind of situation. So like when you go work at a real estate brokerage, you have the agent and the broker. I'm the broker now.
Mm-hmm.
When I was coming up, I was the agent. Well, mentorship is a good thing. I think all men need mentorship. I think all men need a tribe. I didn't really have that tribe in the military, especially switching to that C command. So leaving the military, finding my tribe of men, finding those guys that can coach me in my faith, coach me in my family, just show me a better lifestyle, because I didn't really have the blueprint, right? I came from a broken home. I came from a broken background. So just to know that there were successful men that were, already doing what I wanted to do, had the life I wanted to have, and I could listen to them and I could believe in, the 5 F's: faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun. I think that was really helpful. And, but, another thing, Leo, is my dad was an entrepreneur. So I always had this inside of me that I always wanted to work for myself. So it made sense to me. It's not going to make sense to everybody. If you grow up and you watch your dad work for somebody else, I mean, that's going to make sense to you. But for me, I watched my dad run his own business. So it made sense to me to take a risk. I didn't have a problem doing that. Worst case scenario, I'd be right back where I started.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and we were talking about this earlier about going into business for yourself. You really have to have faith in yourself and realize that, hey, we're going to take this on the long run.
Yeah.
And sometimes you find that tribe in the military. Oftentimes you don't, because most people in the military are not thinking outside the box. I definitely was not. How many people in the military do you know that are running Airbnbs that got, I mean, not many, right? We know people that have side hustles. They DoorDash, they Uber and stuff like that. But you were like, that's not for me. I am taking this. And your dad was an entrepreneur. So you're like, I got that spirit in me. I got that entrepreneurship spirit in me. I'm already making a lot of money besides the Navy. So why not go into business for myself? And when we talked before, I was like, I was asking you a lot of questions about it. I'm like, it doesn't make sense to me because I don't have that financial services mindset. And I'm like, is this like a real thing? Is this like an actual thing? And then you told me something that I was surprised about. You guys are licensed. You
Yeah.
guys are state licensed, which was, I was like, okay, this is definitely not an MLM. Like what, like nobody that in those, I guess, area businesses is not licensed. You
Right.
don't see anybody in Herbalife and Avon like being
Right.
licensed by the state.
Yeah. Well, and again, I always like to say this, when you go to a bank, the person who gives you a credit card doesn't need a license to put you in debt, right?
Mm.
We're more regulated than a bank. I have a license that's registered with the state, with the nation, so we're regulated. We have regulated products. I'm just in an industry that's been around forever and it's going to be around forever.
Hmm.
Uh, so it just comes down to education and learning. And look, not everybody's going to be built for what I do. Not everybody's going to want to come in and go into an only commission role.
Yeah.
Totally fine. But there are a few people that understand the risk reward ratio and they're willing to do it.
Hell yeah, dude. Just give us a little snippet of what you do. Because financial services is very broad, right? I don't know what it means. But just give us a little snippet of what you do and how you help people.
Yeah. So I teach people something about a concept called a family banking strategy. So in the same sense, instead of putting money in your 401k, locking up your money, we teach people how to invest in their own family bank instead of going to a bank and asking for a loan or running your credit. They could just take a loan from their own family bank. So it's really just a concept, and we're using registered products to do so, licensed financial products to do so.
That is insane. And do you have any examples of how you've helped people in the past or recently or something like that?
Yeah. So I had somebody that actually just recently wanted to set up a family bank. They want to put $20,000 a year into a family banking strategy. There's a great book that you can read about this called What Would the Rockefellers Do? So how do they create
Ooh.
generational wealth? How do they, pass it on to the next generation? What are the, mindsets that you need to teach your kids, right? Because if you just give them some money, you're going to ruin those kids.
Yeah.
So, and we're talking about, habits, knowledge, skills, assets. We're talking about things that make a bigger difference than just handing an 18-year-old kid $1 million. So really, again, so we sat down. They said, hey, I want to save $20,000 a year. Eventually, I want to pay off my house. I want to be debt-free. I want to give myself the loan. So we're just walking through, a program that can offer that, a product that can offer that. And there's many different. I can go in depth on 20 different companies that offer that. That's not the point. The concept is, hey, I want to take responsibility over my finances, and I want to be able to invest in a manner that, hey, if I want to borrow my money, I can pay myself the interest. I can borrow my own money, become my own family bank, go to my family for the money versus another institution. So just
Mhm.
understanding where you're getting your money from, how you're growing your wealth, and what you're truly protecting. That's really what I focus on.
That's great. That's great. Can you also talk about, because that's not all you do, right? Because you told me about an instance with a person. The first time we met, you talked that someone. I'm forgetting all the details here because I don't want to give it all away. But somebody who couldn't get insurance.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do life insurance, I do 401k rollovers, I do college planning, I do all of those things. But the scenario you're talking about is, so I have a client, right? He was, basically diagnosed with cancer a few years ago. And because of that diagnosis, he wasn't confident in protecting his family,
Mm.
right? So we ended up sitting down, we applied with a company. I ended up getting him approved for $1 million life insurance for 22 years for less than $100 a month. And just to be able to be in a position to serve this person meant a lot. They're in another state. I'm in California. They're in Texas. And just to be able to sit across a screen, say, hey, brother, hey, sister, I was able to put this plan in place. Your wife is protected. Your future baby is protected. Your kids are protected. And we're able to have a plan that, God forbid something happens, by the time you're 60, everything's going to be taken care of.
Yeah, and that's once you told me that one, I was like, that is insane because it gave me a better idea of what you do because you not only help people with the 401k, retirement planning, college fund or college planning and stuff like that, but you also help people get their life insurance, which is awesome. which is awesome
Yeah.
because who that has cancer can get life insurance? If you're a smoker, it's hard to get life insurance now.
Yeah.
And even me, like if since I was in the army, uh, lots of TBIs, lots of stuff wrong with me. It would be hard to get a regular life insurance.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
it's hard to get a lot of stuff out there, and you were able to help this person, uh, help this person help their family get set up for the future.
Well, Leo, that's what helped me become so successful early on was because I noticed that the people that needed my help weren't the 4-year sailors. It was the people that were 20 years transitioning out. They had a lot of questions and there was no answer. And
Hmm.
then when I went to go talk to the officers, they already knew about everything.
Yeah.
So where was the break of education? We're supposed to be the world's greatest military, but we have the world's worst education. That
Hmm.
doesn't make sense to me. So I remember being in maintenance control. I sat down with a guy that was about to retire, and this is what he told me, Leo. I never put money in my TSP. I never bought a house. I'm about to get out of the military. I have no clue where my family's going to go.
Damn.
That's when it hit me. I was like, are you kidding me? You've been
Yeah.
serving our country for this long, and nobody has ever sat down with you? Are you kidding me? And, he was part of the Filipino mafia, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So, and it blew my mind, and I focused on serving those people and giving back to those people. And that's really where I found a lot of success. And I actually wrote a book about this, Leo. I want to kind of show you here. So in my book, I actually talk about some scenarios where I served a military member who got out after 20 years, didn't have any plan. Like, I wrote about it. I want to share that story with people and make a understanding, right? Because the most powerful thing we can have is a story. Well,
Hmm.
here's a story of somebody who protected their family, did the right thing, and I was able to serve them. And so, again, that's what I focus on. That's what I care about. And I would do this for free, if that makes sense. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Helping people's always fun. It creates your network. It helps you create a network full of other people that might be in the same situation that need the help. And I think the retirement help. If anybody's listening, if you're retiring or if you're getting ready for retirement, hit Gregory Stevenson up because he will help you get everything set up for the future. You don't want to be that one retiree that, oh man, I don't know what to do after this. You've done 20 years, 25 years, and now you just want to chill. Great, chill, but your money's got to work for itself, and it's got to be somewhere.
yeah, I'd rather
Um,
be 5 years early than 5 minutes late. I
yeah,
always,
rather be 5 years early than 5 minutes late, of course.
yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about your book. We'll give it another plug.
Yeah. Well, in my book, I just wrote a simple short story. It's supposed to be able to be read within 1 hour. But in my book, I just talk about how the, traditional tax later accounts end up hurting a lot of people. I won't go into crazy depth there, but I actually use 4 people that I helped in this story. I use their live examples. I, go through how I found them, what was the solution. And I just walk through a simple story of just, how did we solve this person's problem? I met with a veteran, I met with a teacher, I met with a nurse, and I met with a construction worker. All of them were different ages, different genders, different amounts, and we were able to find a solution for all of them.
Damn, that is absolutely insane that you were able to help
Yeah.
these 4 people, different backgrounds. Because I'm thinking over here that got to have a lot of money to do all that stuff. I got to have at least like 200 grand or something like that. But you're like, nah, it's not that hard. You're like, I can help you. I can help anybody.
One of the things that I think is such a powerful concept, and I don't teach about it enough, but, I think everybody should understand the concept of compound interest,
Hmm.
and it's just that simple. You gotta one day wake up and say, hey, is my money working for me or is it not working for me?
Yeah, it's like the liability and asset type of thing, right?
Yeah,
People think buying a house as an asset.
correct.
Depends how you use it, though. Depends how you use it. If you buy a house to Airbnb it, becomes an asset. But if you just buy a house to live in it, becomes a liability because you got to put money into
Now I can tell you read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
it. Yeah, I've dabbled. Yeah, I've dabbled.
Uh,
Oh man,
Cheers.
Gregory. Before we head out, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. Right, I'm gonna
Let's
ask
do it.
you a go or no go at Gregory Stevenson Station. Gregory Stevenson Station. Say that fast 5 times. Go or no go at the station. Looking all at the lens of being in the Navy, right? Working through lunch. Is that a go or no go?
Well, you got to tell me what go no go means. Like go or
You approve it or you don't approve it.
oh yeah, go for it. Yeah, go.
What about cuffing or rolling your sleeves?
Depends on your branch. Go.
um. You haven't eaten MREs, man. What about wearing grunt style t-shirts out in public?
It's no go. You better stop. You better cut that out. You better cut that out.
Good,
I'm
good,
gonna act
good.
like an
Hell yeah.
officer and I'm gonna check you real quick.
Good, hell yeah. What about those people that tuck their pants into their boots?
Dude, I need to call their mom or something. No go.
Good, good, good. Calling snacks lickies and chewies.
Go back to boot camp. No go.
Getting any military service tattoo on you.
Go. There's a lot of, I mean, depending on your branch, right? I mean, there's like, you got Chair Force and you got Navy, you got Air, Army.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you another question because every person that I've met or that I've heard of going into the Navy gets a Navy tattoo, and it's usually the anchor
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, the sense of being
or
a
a
chief.
compass.
Yeah, or compass, right? Or you get, a lot of people get like the forest on their hands and, it's just stuff like
Yeah.
that. So yeah, I'd say go just because there's a lot of sense of pride, there and traveling and serving. I mean, the Navy's a great, that's what I love about the boot camp is they teach you the history of the great organization you're a part of. And I love naval history. I think it's a beautiful thing to study. I think it's an amazing thing to understand. And being a part of that is great. I mean, dude, you look at these carriers, these things can take out whole nations. And just being around that, I think that's a great sense of pride.
Yeah, yeah. I would think so. Yeah, I might have joined the wrong branch. What about service ribbon stickers on your rear windshield?
It's no go.
You see those all the time, especially
go.
here in North Carolina. You see those all the goddamn time, and I'm like, all right, retired first sergeant, you're a real person now. You can calm the fuck down.
Yeah, that was one thing that I respected. There's a guy named Miller I met at my first command. He's like, man, the second I get off, I don't want to be in military uniform. I was like, oh, that actually makes a lot of sense. Let me no longer go out into public in military. Let me just change as soon as possible. Because otherwise you're just looked at like as this type of person, and you're shooting.
Yeah, a lot of people at least in my unit would change before going home because I don't know why, but they would change before going home, probably because of the fact that they want to transition into being a human again, and and they're like, well, just in case I gotta go to the store or something, and I'm like, I almost never have to go to the fucking store right before going home.
Right.
I'm gonna stay in my uniform because if not, I still have to stay. I have to stay here 15 minutes later, and I'd just rather go home.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'd just rather go home.
Call you in last second, right?
Yeah, there's always something like as I'm taking my boots off and they're like, hey, we need you to do this. Fuck, I should have just gone home. And there was too many situations where I'm like, I should have just gone home. And now it's like 8:00 and I'm like elbows deep in an alternator or a transmission or something, and I'm just rethinking my life. Another couple questions before we go. Hindsight is 2020, right? And hindsight is 2020 in any career. And sometimes we make some questionable decisions, right? If you were your younger, wide-eyed, hoo-yah self young in the Navy, what would you tell them?
Yeah, believe in yourself faster, think bigger, move quicker, man. Sometimes in hindsight, we wish we would have went faster. So move faster, right? If you have a goal, you have a dream, work towards it. If your goal is to be the best at your command, be the best. But don't ever procrastinate. I think a lot of people procrastinate. They doubt themselves. Fear stands for false evidence appearing real. So I always say face everything and run, right? So faith is better than fear. And so don't operate in fear, operate in faith.
Don't operate your life in fear, operate in faith. I like that.
Yeah.
Before we go, what's one piece of financial advice that you could give to those people listening?
Yeah, I would say start as soon as you can and come up with a budget plan. Somebody who invests 30% of their budget at their 40 years range will have half the amount of money as somebody in their 20s will invest 10%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they'll have half. It's because of time. So, come up with a budget. Here's a simple budget. It's called 50-30-20. 50-30-20. If you can follow that budget, you can have everything you want on time, if not early.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Hell yeah. Create a budget 50, 30, 20, right?
Yep. 50% on your needs, 30% on your wants, 20% on your savings and investings. Once you
Oh,
hit your emergency fund goals, you take the other amount and you keep investing it.
love that. Love that. Love that split, actually. I do actually like that split.
Mhm.
Um, Before we go, just plug your book one more time. Where can people find it?
Yeah, so you can go on Amazon. My book is called Index Annuity Secrets. Again, how the affluent escape the 401k trap to exponentially grow their wealth. TSP, 401k, same thing. You can also go to my website, indexannuitysecrets.com. Go ahead and put your email in there. I'll send you a free copy of the book.
Look at that. Hell yeah. Before we go, tell people where they can find you if people want to reach out.
Yeah, you can get me on Instagram for Gregory_Stevenson. Same thing on Facebook. You'll be able to see my Studley profile. And TikTok, I think it's the same thing. I think it's actually Life Insurance Crusader on TikTok. Yeah, so Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, same thing. So
Hell yeah. So if anybody listening wants to reach out to Gregory Stevenson for some financial advice, tell him that you heard him on the Wet Boots podcast. He'll definitely help you out. Gregory, thank you so much for coming by today. Thank you for giving us the time and talking to us and sharing your story. Hopefully people reach out to you. Hopefully the retirees reach out to you. I know I'll be reaching out to you here soon. Do you got anything else to tell the people?
yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you having me on. And hey, if you're a veteran, if you're somebody who has a story to tell, get on the Wet Boots podcast. It's an amazing platform, and Leo's just an amazing guy. So if you're listening, if you listen to the whole thing, you're a champion. And again, get connected with Leo here and support this, because this is what veterans need. They need to hear success. They need to hear that there's a brotherhood and a sisterhood on the other side. They need to have support. So I love that Leo's doing this, and I recommend this podcast to everybody.
Thanks. Thanks for the plug, man. Thank you so much. Everybody, thank you for listening. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. If you like this episode, tell somebody about it. If you like the show, tell somebody about it. Just share it, subscribe, like, comment, call me fat, whatever it is. It definitely helps the algorithm out. Thanks for joining us, everybody. My name is Leo with the Wet Boots Podcast, reminding you that sometimes you have to keep going in wet boots. We'll see you next time.